Hey, what is up YouTube? This is the Mailman Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders Yugioh 2 channel today. And I'm extremely excited to have a new deck to debut for you all today. Now, as you guys can already tell by the title, this deck is going to be a DEMISE Venom deck profile. Now, I feel like I finally cracked the code to how to make Venoms, I guess, not only playable, but decent and somewhat good. The reason this has me so excited is because Venoms have long been laughed at as one of the worst archetypes in the entire game. But I feel like the addition of a couple of secret cards into this deck make Venoms actually not so much of a laughingstock and actually pretty good in their own right. That one of the first cards that I have on that respect is, of course, guys, Card of Demise. Now, for those of you guys who don't really know, Venoms are not really a special summon-based archetype. They just have a lot of normal snakes and stuff like that. And I realized that, they do a lot of normal summoning. They don't really have too much access to various, like, link plays or XYZ or synchro plays in the same way that something like, for instance, reptilians do. They're just like snakes that normal summon themselves and try to add venom counters to other things. Just not very fast at all. So I was like, okay, the deck itself may be weak, so how do we take advantage of that? I found out, also, the main deck is not really that big. One of their monsters is a level 5 with 1600 attack, and the other monster is just a normal monster with very low attack and very, more issues in and of itself. And then I happened upon the idea of Card of Demise. By reducing the number of monsters in the deck, taking out the normal monsters and reducing the number of the level 5, as well as bolstering the ratios, and then taking out a lot of the venom traps, things such as like ambush fangs, which are not really good without venoms, as well as the snake, a couple of the snake deity cards as well. Really toned down and brought the deck, I guess, inward in an effort to just make it more not only accessible, but to better work with the strategy, taking out the bad venom monsters while at the same time lessening the monster count for Card of Demise to be able to dig you deeper for the spells and traps that you need to do your plays. The idea behind this, guys, of course, is to make Venoms playable. And I think that I've done exactly that. Card of Demise is one of the big pieces of this puzzle, one that is extremely good and necessary. I do want to note, guys, I am running Card of Demise and not the newest card that came out, which is the Draw Pot of Extravagance, simply because I'm like, okay, that's not really that good combined together with Card of Demise. They conflict quite a lot, so felt having Card of Demise in here itself was enough. So basically the deck is in a couple main parts. Your main win condition is to get to Vennominaga, of course, and I'll show you, I guess, like a couple of the starting plays. So we're going to start off with the monsters, and I'm going to demonstrate the numbers that I decreased down. So all of the Venom monsters have one thing in common, save for Venom Cobra, which is that they basically have the ability to add one venom counter per turn to a monster that your opponent controls. So I'm running 3 each of Serpent and Snake and 1 copy of Venom Boa. And that's going to be it for the Venom monsters. No Venom Cobra. As I mentioned, there's no real benefit to running Venom Cobra. It's just a normal monster, and you'd rather be adding counters to your opponent's monster rather than doing things with your venom spells and traps as normal monsters. So this small number of venoms is really good, because Serpent and Snake are both able to be normal summon, and then cutting the number of Boa down to 1 is very good. Easy to send off of Snake Rain, easy to just like tribute summon or do whatever with, but Venom Boa at 1 is better than having 3 copies of it just to increase the number of reptiles in your grave. And has more of an issue. Usually you can resolve like 2 Snake Rains per turn in this deck, which actually gets your monsters still really big despite the less number of monster counts for your reptile monsters. So this is a perfect number. Will note, guys, Venom Serpent is It is able to attack during the time where you do a Venom counter, but Venom Snake and Venom Boa are not. Boa does add 2 counters and not 1. That's it for these snakes, guys. Next cards that we have in the deck, of course, are your win condition plays. 3 copies of Vennominon, King of Poisonous Snakes. Gains 500 attack power for every reptile in your graveyard. Very, very easy to summon. Your big win condition play is trying to get him out as fast as possible so that you can grab Vennominaga, the deity of poisonous snakes. She's the best one in the deck, unaffected by monsters, spells, and traps. And if you can get her up to like 5,000 or 6,000 attack, barring your opponent completely stalling you and forcing you to deck out, you basically win the game. The goal of this deck is centered entirely upon Vennominaga. Your goal is to get Vennominaga out. You're not playing against your opponent, you're really playing against yourself and playing against time and trying your best to get Vennominaga out. Since it's such a tough card to get out, the deck, of course, is weak to negation and to a lot of different plays. But as far as I've seen, this is the #1 most consistent way to regularly get Vennominaga to the field. So I'll stand by that and, basically just leave that at that. So there we have that, the 3 Venominons and 1 Vennominaga. And now finally, the secret sauce, the other secret sauce besides card of Demise, is going to be 3 copies of Lilith, Lady of Lament. Now, as you guys are probably aware, there's a lot of cards that are necessary for it. You need a way to get Venominon to the field. You need a way to destroy Venominon, and you have to have Rise of the Snake Deity for when it's destroyed by card effect to trigger that effect and to basically get this card out. So what Lilith, Lady of Lament actually ends up doing is basically making it very, very easy for you to grab whichever piece of the trap lineup that you're missing. If you have a Torrential Tribute, or you have a Rise of the Snake Deity, you'll grab like Offering to the Snake Deity, or something to revive the card from the graveyard. Basically a ton of different plays that you have. And you can basically search whatever normal trap that you want. And I actually increased the number of normal traps a lot in this deck so that you have more things to search with Lilith. But what she basically does is she's your preferred summon over any Venom monster, in that she's a quick effect, she tributes for cost, so she gets around things like skill drain, and then allows you to set whatever trap you're missing to better create your Venominon suite. So you can trigger it off and get off Vennominaga's effect. So guys, that's going to be it for the monsters in this deck. Now moving on to the spells. As I mentioned before, Card of Demise is king. Because you're running such a low monster count, a lot of normal summonable stuff, not really anything special summon, and a lot of times you're getting Vennominaga on your opponent's turn. Card of Demise is perfect for digging through your deck to get the pieces of back row and stuff that you need. A lot of your spells and traps are very resource heavy. You're going to be running a lot of grind game, and you want to have disruption against your opponent. Card of Demise digs for all of that stuff. And the best part about this deck is that you love having reptiles and graves. So even if you draw a handful of 3 monsters, even if they're all like Venominons and stuff, you're still super happy to send that stuff to your graveyard to boost up the power of your Venominon or your Vennominaga. Really, really good card, and all of its goodness and its restrictions work perfectly in the deck. Wouldn't be a Venom deck without 3 Venom Swamp. Now, this is not your win condition, but can be your win condition in the right scenarios. The idea that Venom Swamp won't really affect your monsters, even Lilith, and will constantly be taking attack power away from your opponent's stuff. Triggers during each end phase, adding a Venom counter to a monster your opponent controls, which Venom Swamp allows to take 500 off of their attacks each and every single time, which makes their attack powers a lot more manageable for Venominon and Vennominaga to deal with. It does not target, it just adds the counters, so if cards are unaffected by monster effects, the only thing that would not be affected by this is something like Metaltron, which is impervious to spells and traps, but that's neither here nor there. But 3 Venom Swamp is absolutely fantastic to have in the deck. And of course, wouldn't be a Venom deck without having that 1 Terraforming to search the card out. You don't really want to see multiples of these in your hand, so it's not necessary, but it's like a nice bonus card. And the fact that it's a field card means that it doesn't take up one of your back row spells and traps. So you still have more plays there. Of course, the next card that we're going to be running is 1 Foolish Burial. This can be anything. I'm thinking about taking this out for another trap, but the real star of the show, guys, is 3 copies of Snake Rain. Now, this is probably going to get banned or limited in some time, but doesn't really make your deck too broken. Basically, you discard 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, and then send 4 reptile-type monsters from your deck to the graveyard. No restrictions other than that. So this is basically the card that you use to send snakes, and the greatest thing about Snake Rain is the fact that that discard actually allows you to, if you're drawing into Venominons and stuff like that with Card of Demise, what you basically do is you draw into them, and then you can trigger Snake Rain. Snake Rain will discard those to get 4 more from your deck, further thinning out the deck for Card of Demise to draw you other stuff later on down the line. So another really, really great play that you can do with Snake Rain. But basically the play that you want to do is having a way to get Venominon to the field and then sending a bunch of reptiles with Snake Rain to the graveyard so that you can boost up his attack power and eventually the attack power of Vennominaga when you get around to summoning it. Of course, the next card we've gotten here is 2 Dark Holes. Reason why Dark Hole and not Raigeki, for instance, is because you want to destroy your monsters. You don't really care about your monsters anyway. The end goal of this deck, of course, guys, is getting out Vennominaga, and Dark Hole also has the extra added effect of destroying your opponent's stuff too, provided that you've gotten rid of all their negations, so that's just like another added benefit. I thought about 3 Dark Holes, but I feel like the number is too large for that, and I feel like 2 with Card of Demise able to dig with this card, I'm seeing it just as much as I want and not any more than that. And then finally, of course, Monster Reborn to get your other plays going and to get Phenomenons out of your graveyard. One problem I do have is Phenomenon's very easy to get from deck and very easy to get from graveyard, but not easy to get from your hand. So if you don't really have a Snake Rain and stuff like that, you're going to be stuck with Phenomenons in your hand. But I've so far not found another monster that does Phenomenon's job better than him. So that's that. Now moving on to the traps. Wouldn't be a Vennominaga deck without 3 copies of Rise of the Snake Deity. This is one of the many normal traps that you can use alongside Lilith, Lady of Lament. And the reason why a bunch of them are in here at 3 is basically just because you want to have a guaranteed ability to get this if it's in your deck. And having Rise of the Snake Deity at 3, make sure that it's a 100% possibility. You can pull this out of your deck onto your field if you need it. One thing to note with this card is that it cannot activate during the damage step, so it will not trigger when destroyed by battle, and it is a when you can effect, so it's a when triggered special summon, so it can miss the timing, and if you have a massive chain of stuff built up, basically Rise of the Snake Deity will miss the timing. So that is something troublesome to consider. Next card we've got is 3 copies of Offering to the Snake Deity. Basically, your Icarus attack also has the extra added benefit of destroying one of your cards for Rise, and then at the same time destroying 2 of your opponent's cards. All of it happens at the same time, so it will not miss the timing. Really, really good card. The traps have great disruption ability and work incredibly well in destroying your opponent's stuff. So these work hand in hand, of course, with 3 copies of the following card. I have it at 2 right now, but might bump it up. I do like it at 2, though. Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute, you guys already know what it does. Another great normal trap card. Easy to trigger. Doesn't require a reptile on grave, like Offering to the Snake Deity does, so easier to use in that respect. Next card we've got, guys, is 2 copies of Damage Equals Reptile. For when you can't get your Venominon out of grave, you can get it out of deck. Very easy to summon the card. If you take any amount of damage with battle from a reptile monster, you basically just special summon Venominon out. And even if he gets destroyed, you still got benefits there, so that's good. And then finally, of course, guys, we've got 2 copies of Limit Reverse. Limit Reverse is a really awesome card that just basically works as a 1-card revival and destruction for Venominon to trigger your back row. Because you special summon Venominon with Limit Reverse during the end phase of your opponent's turn, and then on your turn, if you switch it to defense mode, Limit Reverse will destroy the card, allowing you to trigger Rise of the Snake Deity and special summon Vennominaga from your deck. So as you guys can see, this deck is entirely focused upon utilizing the combinations of your low reptile count, card of demise, and other things. Just basically make a situation where you're always going to have a route to Vennominaga. Now, one thing I will note for you guys, though, with this is that this deck is extremely reliant on not running into negation, as is common, I guess, in Venom decks. But you don't really want to run into negation. You don't really want to run into, you know, alternate kind of plays that your opponent is doing. You really want to get the most out of the plays that you already have. And thanks to these cards, you're going to be able to do that. Do note, like, you know, running up against things like side frames and hand traps and other things like that that affect your deck. This is a very old GX deck and is an update to one of what people consider is the worst archetypes in the game. But if you play your cards right, and that's no pun intended here, but if you play your cards right, you really know what you're doing, you have the capability to get a massive Vennominaga onto the field and to really give your opponent a run for their money. And they'll be surprised how hard they have to push or how much they have to do just to defeat a Venom deck. And let me tell you guys, the satisfaction is unparalleled. So if you guys like this video, you know, please try and build a deck. Please tell me what you think. Of course, it does still brick every now and then, and I'm still working out a couple of the ratios. But when this deck works, guys, man, does it work. And it's so exciting to share this breakthrough with you. And I look forward to hearing about your exploits within this deck. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and this has been the Mermaid Master signing out. Catch you guys next time.